Asking questions in technology education. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Alexander tuku mauna, no Huranui tuku awa, no Waikari aho, ko Fox tuku whānau, ko Wendy tuku ingoa. Good morning, my name is Wendy Fox-Turnbull. I'm an Associate Professor of Technology Education at the University of Waikato. The aim of this research was to understand student-to-student conversations and the impacts on technology education. Technology education is a mandatory subject in technology and was introduced after much debate and dialogue throughout New Zealand. However, there are many ways that it has been implemented in the New Zealand classroom. The curriculum encourages teachers to use social and cultural contexts for the student to create supportive learning community in which students design and develop technological outcomes. This encourages students and teachers to reflect on and to enhance their thinking to facilitate their learning. Learning should make connections to prior learning and provide sufficient opportunities for the investigation and exploratory inquiry. This research was initially intended to provide insight into primary teachers and students' use of facilitated intercognitive talk to improve learning and technology, with a special focus on student-to-student learning. This presentation discusses the findings of that investigation and the role and nature of student talk and questioning in a junior primary technology classroom. Education based on dialogism is based within the social cultural learning theory. There are many studies that talk about the difference, the difference that questioning makes. And what we want to do in this study is to identify what questioning what difference it made in students' learning and technology. And this is based on the premise that we learn through talking and through asking questions. Learning through language within which the social reality of social reaction plays a central role. Classroom interaction is very complex and is used for multiple reasons. Students use talk and questioning to collaborate, to support, to defend themselves and others, and to question and query and to solve disputes. Questioning is a favourite pedagogical strategy undertaken by teachers, and it's also Buchanan Hill defines questions as sentences that are interrogative and a form and function with instructional cues that convey instructions, directions, and elements to be learned. Early examples of questioning to facilitate critical thinking are attributed to the Greek philosopher Socrates. Since then, questioning to facilitate critical thinking has been an important part of the learning process. However, NAPI identifies that 60 to 80% of the questions asked by teachers require the students to recall information. Questioning skills need to be developed to facilitate a greater percentage of higher order questions and facilitating more effective student learning. The connection between questioning and academic progress is well known. Several taxonomies and models have been developed to provide a structure and a focus for questions, and you'll recognise Bloom's as one of those. Quite recently, Nauru identified that the type of questions impact on the quality of students' interactions between the students. And it suggests that the quality of conversations is improved with the use of questioning. And both of these will invoke critical thinking. So student dialogue in technology education has been found to give insight into students' learning. This came out of study from my PhD study and subsequent studies that I've undertaken. Andrew Doyle recognised the value of engaging students in higher levels of thinking and technology, including novel approaches to questioning. Swati R.R. suggested that teachers need to spend time familiarising themselves with questions, with the potential questions. And so this study works on the assumption that the same would apply to young students, that it is envisioned that this study will give further insight into questioning dialogue between students while learning in technology, and students' perception of how their talking assists their own and their peers' learning. So a unit was planned that met the requirements of the Ministry of Education in terms of technology education. It occurred in a full primary school, but with the first 3 classes, which included students from years 1 to 3. The students were asked to design and develop the props and think about the costumes that were required for their item in the school production. So the theme was to produce the props and the costumes for their class item. The context for that class item: in the first class, years 0 to 1, the students learned about their school story. This particular school was in the Mount Cook region, and the classrooms in the school were named to symbolise the flow that the students had from Aoraki Mount Cook as little people through to the local ocean. In item 2, the teacher chose the book Wake Up Mr. Bear by Linley Dodd, and in years 3 and 4, the students undertook a synchronised swimming item. I undertook a focus group interviews with the teachers and the students both before and after the teaching. I was a participant researcher, so I did a bit of the teaching, and also I took observations and included photographs and audio recordings and participation in the teaching. I also gathered students' work samples. So the study set out to investigate student dialogue with a special emphasis on questioning between the students in this context that I've mentioned. Before I could do this, I wanted to understand what the students and the teachers thought of talk, what they understood was the role of talk and questioning played in their learning. And reported in this study are the students' views on talk and questioning. So I first of all wanted to find out what the students thought of technology. The class H was the lower class, the years 1 to 2 class. Class M was the year 3 to 4 class. Class A was a year 0 to 1 class. Unfortunately, their teacher got COVID, and so the class was removed from the study. However, they did continue with their unit. So the children had a reasonably good understanding of technology. They understand that it was stuff that you needed to make stuff, and that so they had done a unit previously, and they understood that it was about designing and making things. Some also had that understanding that it was the things that you play with, so thinking about digital devices. And also some of them understood that it was items that they had in the class. One boy in particular was quite convinced that technology was the stuff that had power. Afterwards, the students gained a deeper understanding in their views of technology. They understood that technology was stuff that was designed because you had a need, for example, the show. They also realised that technology was not only just the stuff, but involved in making it. And they also could recognise that sometimes you needed to design and draw things. So that was the first class. The second class was still quite convinced that it was about power, and that they also could recognise that it was design and making things. In relation to talk, all answered negatively when I asked the students whether talking to other people could assist their learning in technology. All but one of them answered negatively. There was one student, Ingrid, and she recognised that talking to her teacher might help her. At this point, some of the other children changed their responses from no to yes, and they recognised, and then Hannah, she changed her response, recognising that she learned when her peers called out answers to questions previously unknown to her. And you can see the sequence there. Yes, yes, your teacher, because she helps you learn. Because if you don't know something, you can just go to her and ask her, and then you can learn that word. Yes, and then someone's calling out, and they tell you what they think, and you tell them, what you think, and then they are joined together. And Hannah put her hands together in gesture. In class M, the students felt that talking to people might help them learn, and they understood a little bit about collaborative technology practice. You're talking to people and learning to make a car, and you think it might be best to talk to an engineer. So this person in class M recognised that talking to experts might help them. There was also one of the others talked about playing a game. You could also help you learn by talking to people. And then again, the teacher came up, because the teacher asked a question, and you have to try and work it out in your brain and what goes on there when you're not saying it out loud, but you are thinking. So if she asks you a question, you might think about it, what you know and what you don't know. You might have to go away and find out what it is. So you can see this person here was really beginning to understand that hope that you had to think about the answers to questions in your head. So she was recognising that her teacher facilitated deeper thinking. Afterwards, after the study, the students there was evidence that the students understood that questioning from their peers assisted their thinking. You try hard to think about questions, and it makes you think about, doesn't it? Something that you might not have thought of before, but the question helps to make you think what you do. And then she went on to say, so we were able to think and talk about what might work and what might not work together. This suggesting that dialogue with her peers helped clarify her thinking. Zana supported Jen's views by suggesting that what might happen with a lack of dialogue. Because then you wouldn't have their ideas, and you don't know what your neighbour's ideas are, and then it would be like an old piece of rubbish. Kim summed up this new insight very succinctly. It makes your brain go because you're talking, and it helps me think. In Class M, the students talk. Class M demonstrated a further sophistication in their understanding of the importance of dialogue during the technology practice. Adam said, they can explain like step-to-step instructions. And Hemi said, you can talk to each other, like where to put things. Jane stated, okay, so do not do it or do it. There is something else that you can do when there are two people disagree. You can discuss the differences like a different thing. thus emphasising her understanding of the importance of compromise in collaborative technology practice. And Hannah indicated increased understanding of the value of dialogue in collaborative technology practice as evidenced below. Okay, so they can give you their opinion, and if you like it or not, like what colour, it helps you. It gives you their ideas, so you can put your ideas and their ideas together and make them up into something that will be good. So this gives you very clear evidence that the students really began to think about their questioning and understand that questioning each other did help. So during the lesson, the data suggests that there are a number of sub-themes, and I'm talking really about what were the questioning. So the first sub-theme was characterised by the students checking with each other to ensure that they knew what to do or what they were doing was correct, or reassuring each other that they were on the right track and doing well. For example, this one here. So I've named this theme reassurance and clarity. What do you think we should do? Is an example of that. So reassurance and clarity was characterised by students checking in with each other to ensure that they knew what to do. The second theme was extended learning. This was characterised by questions that assisted students in their learning within the given context. So this question here, Angus was wondering about what would be a suitable material for a particular costume. And he knew about knitting, and he wanted to know whether a costume could be knitted. So he was developing his understanding and extending his learning. Then the third reason for questioning, or the third purpose of questioning, was consensus and peer approval. Characterised questions asked to ensure that the whole group agreed with the decisions made by the individuals, or to gain approval from peers within the group. Skidmore, excuse me, please. Skidmore characterised classroom discussion and questioning should be natural and characterised by interruptibility. I think this is really important because if you listen to children, they are interrupting each other all the time. And it's quite important to be allowed to do that, to have the freedom to, in fact, being able to interrupt and think and talk when you're thinking about something as it comes up within learning. Social interaction played a key role in their achievement and shows that students develop their understanding of the role of dialogue played in technology education. The participating teachers were mainly referred to teacher-directed talk when they were asked about talk. However, and so therefore, neither of them mentioned the cognitive benefits of students talking to each other. But despite the reservations about talking, the participant teachers allowed dialogue conversation to occur during the study, with results showing that the students in both classes made gains in their understanding of technology and the role that dialogue played in learning. Both Hannah and Jane's comments about merging ideas between people support Wiggeriff and Major's connection between the concept of in-between space by intimating that their conversations allow them to arrive at understanding that neither conversation participant had previously. And I referred to this in previous publications as intercognitive learning. Of the themes identified, only one was focused on the extended learning. The other two were more managerial in nature. These findings support Warwick and Cook's suggestion that questioning is a powerful pedagogical strategy. However, by implication, this refers to questioning as a tool for teachers. These findings suggest that questioning is a tool for students to assist with classroom survival and their learning. Students participated in this study used talk to collaborate, support, defend themselves as evident in the sub-themes: approval, assurance and clarity, and consensus and peer approval. The data also suggests that meta-talk also enabled the students to reflect on the power of talk. So they were able to actually, when I asked them about their talk, they were able to reflect on that. This supports Edward Groves and Davidson's findings that talking about talk facilitated some students' understanding of the power of talk to achieve new learning. The findings also suggest the potential of developing skills in students to ask higher level questions and require each other, deeper thinking to assist their own and others' learning. This study highlights the potential of student-to-student questioning and technology to assist learning. Though the findings indicate that both teachers and students need to be familiar with the questions before they are able to ask effective questions. They need guidance about the type of questions to ask and how those questions link to technology education. So it's not only, Swathi suggested that teachers become familiar with the questions, with specific questions to talk around technology education. This study shows the same is true, or perhaps even more important for students. Students have to be prepared for and taught the reasoning and the relevance of questionings and the protocols of asking predetermined questions as a tool for learning. One of the things that I learned from the study was that I think classrooms need quite a lot of preparation in order to be able to get the students asking questions. The technology considerable time needs to be establishing classroom climate in which deeper questions are able to be asked, and also where students are engaged in meta-talk. Asking the deep learning questions about their peers is carefully scaffolded as a part of their normal classroom practice, thus ongoing, outlining potential for future research. There were a number of limitations to the study that I do think that I need to share with you. The one was that the data gathering period was quite short. Unfortunately, it was decreased in part by sickness of the researcher, myself, and the high levels of student absence. And the study occurred at the tail end of COVID-19 pandemic, when New Zealand still had isolation requirements. So if people were unwell, they had to stay at home. Another limitation was the researcher's role, as I was one of the main teachers in the unit, preparing and planning all the activities. Although this worked well for the students, the research data gathering sometimes did suffer. But in conclusion, I think it's really important that we ask students and get our students thinking about the role of talk in learning, not only in technology education, but in all areas, and to be familiar with the types of questions that they can ask to help facilitate their own learning and others' learning. Thank you very much for listening. Ka kite.